the other words. And so what James is saying is, when you don't get what you desire and what you covet you don't obtain, there is a tendency for you to look at them differently and you start slandering. Now, you find here when he says, do not speak evil against one another, brothers. The one who speaks against a brother or judges his brother speaks evil against the law and judges the law. In other words, he's saying, don't jump to conclusions. You know, because very often, if you look at all our groups, whichever group, very often we have half information and we break that person's life. You really do not know what the truth is. Now we need to be very careful whether I am a victim of slandering or whether I am a cause of destroying relationships. How often I have looked at him and said, oh, this guy is not very active in a fellowship. Something is radically wrong. He could be a dropout from school. Now we don't know the information at all. Now that is what James is saying. Don't jump to conclusions. You listen. How often we have looked at both sides. When the man comes into the office and says, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what my wife did, this is what my wife did, we need to call the wife and say, is it true? This is what he's saying. And then she turns around and says, when did I ever do this to you? Because it is absolutely wrong for any of us to jump to conclusions looking at only one side. Is there any biblical evidence? Turn with me to 1 Samuel chapter 17. First Samuel chapter 17. Let me read from verse 17. And Jesse said to David his son, take for your brothers an ephah of this parched grain and these 10 loaves and carry them quickly to the camp to your brothers. Also take these 10 cheeses to the commander of their 1,000. See if your brothers are well and bring some token from them. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah fighting with the Philistines. And David rose early in the morning and left the sheep with the keeper and took the provisions and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the encampment as the host was going out to the battle line, shouting the war cry. And Israel and the Philistines drew up for battle, army against army. Now look at verse 27. And the people answered him in the same way, so shall it be done to the man who kills him. Now Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, listen to what he said. Why have you come down, and with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption and the evil of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle. Look at that. Look at that. He made a judgment even before he could listen to David and said, David, how is it that you came to this place? But he jumped to conclusion thinking David came to see the battle. David should have turned around and said, what battle are you talking about? You see, my friends, the problem in many places, the churches, the cause of fight, is because I fail to understand the other person's opinion. I fail to understand from what angle is he speaking. You know, there were two churches. There's one church and they fought mainly because of this one word in King James. Forgive us our trespasses. And one group said trespasses is wrong. We need to say forgive us our debts. So they split, and one church started saying forgive us our debts, and the other said forgive us our trespasses. And there was a big commotion, and they had an inquiry to have a common group, and they had a press reporters, everybody to see if they can come together. Nothing worked. Next day in the newspaper it was reported, one church went back to its trespasses, the other church went back to its debts. How true it is. Look at it, how often we have jumped to conclusion. And that is why James is saying, stop speaking evil against your brother. Will I speak evil against my mother? Yes, it is possible if I have gone through tough situations in life. Will I speak evil against my sister and my brother? Yes, it is possible. Let us not slander. Why? Look at what he says. The one who speaks against a brother or judges his brother speaks evil against the law and judges the law. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. It is taken from Leviticus chapter 19. Will someone read Leviticus chapter 19? From verse 12 onwards. Will someone read?
Do not swear falsely by my name, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. Do not defraud your neighbor or rob him. Do not hold back the wages of a hired man overnight. Do not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block in front of the blind, but fear your God. I am the Lord. Do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great, but judge your neighbor fairly. Do not go about spreading slander among your people. Do not do anything that endangers your neighbor's life. I am the Lord. Do not hate your brother in your heart. Rebuke your neighbor frankly so you will not share in his guilt.
Right, thank you. Look at verse 10, the last part. I am the Lord your God. Look at verse 12. I am the Lord. Verse 14. I am the Lord. Verse 16. I am the Lord. Verse 18. I am the Lord. You know what the Lord is saying? Don't slander. I am the judge. I am the lawgiver. And I am the Lord. I will look at the hearts of people, because when I judge, it is absolutely accurate. It is absolutely right. And I will know the intentions of people, and I will do it. You are not the judge. Now, I do not know how it is, Georgie, in the court. Now, the article when they interpret, who interprets the article correctly? Who has got the right of interpretation? When there is a dispute on a particular article, who takes the final call?
There must be some judgment on that.
Okay.
So, it's depends on if it's a Supreme Court decision.
Okay, the Supreme Court interpretation is the final. Right. Now, are they the ones who prepare the articles? No.
No, that is the legislature.
Okay.